to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch TV about New Jersey. I am Jodie.
I'm Andrea.
And we watched Yellowjackets Season 1, Episode 3, The Dollhouse.
Yeah, The Dollhouse, though originally titled Welcome to the Dollhouse.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to start there this week?
I think we should. I think that this one has... So, full disclosure, I thought I had watched Welcome to the Dollhouse before, similar to the Empire Records situation. Apparently, I just seen a million clips of it because it's a New Jersey movie and it's from the 90s. And so I just assume I've seen every movie from the 90s that has anything to do with New Jersey. And occasionally I'm wrong. So I'm about halfway through watching that movie. And oh my God, is it about Misty?
Yeah. Yeah.
Dawn is Misty.
Totally. 100%. It's about a weird dark child. But also, the movie is kind of full of, like, Misties. Like, it's just, like, a weird, kind of, like, misfit movie. Big time.
Totally. And it also, to me, since we just watched the episode where we saw Misty get that prank call in, like, 1991... I was like, they've said this movie is an influence. It's not like a big secret. Mm-hmm. But it's so clear where that influence is in the scenes of Misty being bullied, like in some of the high school dynamics, especially around her, because she is like the sort of outcast. There's even a scene, and I haven't even finished Welcome to the Dollhouse, but there's even a scene where she is about to grope Steve on the bed when they first, Steve, the like musician guy that she has a crush on.
I haven't seen the movie in so long. But...
Yeah, so he's in her brother's bedroom waiting for her brother. She comes in. They start talking about how much middle school sucks. And he's being like kind of sympathetic to her, but he's not looking at her, and her hand is like creeping towards his crotch. And I'm like, it's fucking Misty. Like, it is.
Yeah,
I still haven't watched the whole thing, but...
You're so right. Listeners, you're about to hear me say Heather Matarazzo's name incorrectly 35 times before you write into correct. Don't worry. We'll figure it out in a few minutes. I'm surprised, like Heather Matarazzo, I think that's how you say her last name.
Yeah.
Feels like somebody who should be on the show eventually, you know?
Yes.
And
she plays Dawn.
She would be. She plays Dawn. So I found out some stuff about her career that made me assume she was from Jersey. She's not. She's from Long Island, but she...
upside down Jersey.
But so she's in Welcome to the Dollhouse. She also recently, like within the last, I think 5 years or so, debuted a play in Cape May. Which is so specific, such a small town in Jersey.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's like one of the big theater cities outside of New York. So it makes sense. Like actors find their way there. It's so strange.
Actors don't find their way to Cape May.
No.
They just don't. Apologies to our non-Jersey listeners. This is going to be a very Jersey heavy episode because... with the Welcome to the Dollhouse references, like
to begin, they invited it. It's not.
This is the most Jersey movie.
Us.
Yeah.
She was also in a movie called Our Guys: Outrage at Glen Ridge.
Oh yeah, you were going to tell me about this.
It's a It is a tough watch. I watched a little bit of it today, kind of accidentally. It's about a true story of a really horrific sexual assault case in Glen Ridge, New Jersey, and Heather plays the victim in the movie, who has some they call her like mentally handicapped, I think is the phrasing. It's from 99. I don't know the actual, like, I don't know enough about the actual victim to be able to say anything about her as a person, but that's her character in the movie. But again, also from New Jersey, which is a lot of it's a lot of Jersey.
Yeah, well, people from Long Island kind of wish they were from Jersey, don't they?
She's hoping that if she does enough Jersey-focused work,
we'll just wipe the Long Island off of her
exactly
her IMDb. So yes, Welcome to the Dollhouse. I think obviously a big influence on Ashley and Bart. They've mentioned it in interviews. But it's such a Jersey high school thing, Jersey 90s high school thing. And
then also just the very on the nose of this is where they find the cabin where they're going to go play
Dollhouse,
to play Dollhouse for,
absolutely,
for 18. Well, I guess we don't know, not how many months, but because the cabin is no longer with us.
Right. Also, I noticed, I was also doing some Googling, and I came to our trusty Reddit community. And from a couple years ago when the episode first came out, somebody had asked about the title of the episode, and someone named Rhubarb Macabre, which is a great name, said, perhaps it's like Welcome to the Dollhouse and Ibsen's play A Dollhouse, where the dollhouse is basically a metaphor for where you're placed in life and how you can't leave or change it. The dollhouse looks pretty or perfect, but you have no control. You're stuck. You can't do anything but be manipulated and moved around the house. Obviously, they're all trapped and at the mercy of the forest.
I spent a lot of time reading about the various translations and arguments for the translations of the title of that play this morning.
Oh, yeah.
None of them are relevant to the show, but I was just like, this is how this happens. This is how, here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
Just in a deep Ibsen dive.
Yeah. Oh, someone named Show of Shows agrees with you. They said if they're going to do more meta casting for season 2, this was pre-season 2, Heather Matarazzo would be a good choice for one of the surviving Yellowjackets.
Oh, is it Matarazzo?
Matarazzo. I think they might have spelled it wrong.
No, it's Matarazzo.
Matarazzo.
Wow, I've been autocorrecting her last name to Matazzaro for...
It sounds more Jersey, Matazzaro.
100%. I probably went to school with a Heather.
Oh, I'm sure I did.
I've been autocorrecting her name for 25 years or something like that. That is so funny.
That's really funny. Maybe in season 3, maybe one of the JV girls we don't hear much from, she could come in as at the adult version. Oh, this is so Long Island in the 80s and 90s, also New Jersey. Her full name is Heather Christina Marie Matarazzo.
Perfect Jersey name. Again, but not
from Jersey. Before we go on to the episode, I have a few other Jersey-related things I want to mention. So, Welcome to the Dollhouse, about suburban New Jersey, written by Todd Solondz, I think is how you pronounce his last name, from Newark. So he wrote the Jersey movie. He's from Newark. And then one thing I discovered this morning that was an older article that I can't believe I didn't read prior is from the New York Times. It's about Ashley and Bart and how they met and their creative partnership and their real life partnership. And it is an article. We should link it in the show notes. It's so Jersey. They met at a party in Jersey City with the beer Christmas theme, where once everyone's finished their beer can, they hang it on a Christmas tree. Beer Christmas is now the name of their production company.
I love that so much.
Yeah. And apparently they had heard about each other from mutual friends, but Bart was usually helping his father with the family fast food stand on the Jersey Shore, serving up burgers, hot dogs, and sweet sausage sandwiches. I was free labor all summer long, he said. So happy. It's the best. It's just such a great little, Jersey detail. Also, Ashley was in a band that played Liz Phair covers.
That rules.
I'm... I could not be more, full of joy from this story. They're also apparently both really into tarot cards.
Huh.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I've just been in a real Jersey mood this morning, and felt like I needed to shine some light on their very New Jersey upbringing and meeting.
I know we always apologize for this podcast being about New Jersey, but the show is very New Jersey. And it's also
literally the first thing we say.
Yeah. And Yellowjackets is very New Jersey. One more thing that is metatextual. We have a kind of confirmation. Yellowjackets season 3, not till 2025.
I was so afraid of this. I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, it's not a quick show to make.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah,
we were optimistically hoping for maybe late 2024.
Yeah, no, I know it's 2025.
So we'll hang out here in season 1. And then we're just going to start right back at season 2. And then we get through that and we're going to go right back around to season 1.
Oh, are we?
And we're just going to do that straight through till 2025.
Okay.
So that's the
first
plan.
time hearing of this.
Yeah. Actually, I do have something in mind for what we could do after Yellowjackets that I think I floated by you, Jodie, in passing, that I do think might be fun and good and something that our listeners will like, but we'll see.
I think we also should cover Welcome to the Dollhouse at some point now that I've watched it and realized how much it's connected to this actually.
Yeah. For sure. And also because we thought you hadn't seen it.
Right.
Or wait, we thought...
No, we thought I had seen it.
We thought both of us had seen it, so it was off the table.
It's an Empire Records situation.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll keep y'all posted on what our plan is. And we'd love to hear if you have ideas for stuff you'd be interested in us covering.
Yeah. I mean, there's a chance that other stuff will come out sooner that we might be interested in talking about. Anyway, should we talk about this episode?
I think we should.
I mean, we have been, but not in like the recappy sort of way.
Yeah, let's dive in. This episode starts before we even get into 96. This is our first. We commented last week that the show would have its opening and then the title card with Yellowjackets. We've got No Return. This is our first appearance of No Return. It also opens the episode. We get a previously on, and then the next thing are the opening credits, which is not typical for the show.
Right. Right.
And it's long. It is. I think it is much longer than it becomes.
Yeah. So I think this time around, we decided we're going to do the two timelines separately because up until the end, there weren't as many of those back and forth moments, those transitions, other than the last scene.
Yeah, and 96 is pretty contained, actually. I think it, for the most part, only takes, it's like a few hours, really, that transpire. And there's a lot happening in 2021, so I feel like we say this part a lot, but I think like 96 we'll do a pretty brief rundown, and then we'll be able to spend most of our time in 2021 this week, which I think makes the most sense.
Know that we understand what the word brief means.
I have now time and later time, so right now we're covering 96. Later we'll cover 2021.
Yeah. So we started the funeral. There's some gentle vocalizing.
I noticed that. I did notice the gentle vocalizing.
Not eerie, just gentle. Lots of red shirts around the graves. Some great lines.
This episode is full of just
some of our favorites.
Yeah.
They were really firing on all cylinders with the dialogue these first few episodes.
Yeah.
She's never going to hear Wonderwall again.
She's going to go see Oasis at the Meadowlands.
I know.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
It is. We hear the first trig reference of the episode. Rachel never confused her secants and her cosecants in trigonometry. I don't know if they're fucking with us or if this is actually a thing, but it's really comes up a lot. So we've got our funeral scene that on rewatch I noticed I forgot that this was the case, but is the thing that triggers Ty to walk away and eventually find the lake.
Right.
And even though we're going to talk about the other timelines later, maybe we should include Ty's childhood here because it is in the past.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So it flips back to Ty with her grandmother, and talking about God calling her home, and then eventually seeing the man with no eyes in the mirror.
Yeah, it's funny because in my head when Thaisa asks her, "Are you going to die?" I thought for some reason it's because it gets so scary a little later, but in my head I thought she said something much more cryptic about like being called back, but she says like being called home, and she flat out says heaven. So yeah, then Ty goes for a walk.
Right.
And then this is again one of my first favorite things is when they're rationing.
Yes.
All the stuff, and they've got the snack wells.
Yep. So 90s.
God, it's such a perfect 90s brand.
Yeah. Cutting the snack wells in half. Jackie, we realize Jackie is not thriving. She's got poison ivy all over her.
And she says at one point, if poison ivy is the thing that kills me out here, I deserve to die. It's like, oof. Oh, Jackie.
Yeah. That would be me, though. I would immediately get poison ivy.
She
or
is
something. Or get bit by like some bug that would like make my leg blow up. Allergic to everything.
100%. It would be something like that would kill me immediately. Something that shouldn't kill me that fast, even out there. Like, 100%.
Totally.
She is the one, though, holding out hope that the people are coming. She's pretty. I mean, we're only 3 days in, but she's pretty. She's still pretty optimistic.
Yeah, or you could say naive if you're looking at it from the other direction. But yeah, it doesn't bode well.
Well, I wonder which what I think is the more reasonable way to be 3 days in. They don't know what we know, which is that Missy has destroyed the black box / transmitter.
They also don't know where they crashed, really.
Right.
You know, like they don't know how far from civilization they actually are. Also, why would you know in high school how rescue works from a plane crash?
You were someone like me who obsessively read, Stranded in the Wilderness tales as a young person. But how long do you think it would take you to give up hope that rescue is coming?
Oh my God. Not very long, honestly.
I think it would be immediate for me.
I think I would last like a day, and I would be like, if they haven't come in 24 hours, they're not coming.
Mm-hmm.
Or if they haven't come in 24 hours, we are much farther from civilization and much harder to find than we thought we were. I mean, we talked in the other episode about the new documentary about the Andes crash, right? And they searched for them for a couple of days, flew pretty much directly over them, and didn't see them because of the snow.
Horrifying.
Yeah. So, I don't think I would have hope for very long, honestly.
No. And I think once the first snowfall, it would be over for me. I might be able to I think it would be day one, I would give up hope, but I would, go along with everybody else whenever they wanted.
Yeah.
For their sake. But the second the snow fell, it'd be...
Yeah.
But
I think I would find myself a little hole to curl up in and just wait for the end.
I think that I would be really ready to make a home in that cabin, though. I think I wouldn't be waiting for death. I'd just be like, I guess I'm just a weird woodland person now.
Yeah, totally.
It's fine. It's fine. As long as I had people who could provide for us, because I would be useless. But,
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't be good at the hunting part of it.
Mm-mm.
Although I say that, I've never hunted. I've never killed anything.
Maybe you're natural.
But maybe I'm a natural. Maybe I just don't know.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of survivalist television.
That's a really good point.
I've watched every episode of the show alone. That is the only one. But it has made me feel like I could do it.
I believe in you, Jodie.
The false confidence of the couch person watching alone being like, why are they trying to trap rabbits right now? It's not the season. They're the wrong color. It's just the number of people that watch that show that are like, I would never do it this way. Why aren't they trying fishing? Where's their fishing net? Where's their gill net? It's wild. We also get the great line, who died and made him king of snacks, when Travis steals the food. Nat says his dad, literally his dad.
And it's Lottie who says that. Again, we get... It's a very different Lottie. And again, part of that is, as we see, Lottie has her last pill now. And, what happens with Lottie, depending on how you view it, I think some people, and then it's hard not to, say that it's at least in part has to do with the fact that she's no longer medicated.
Interesting. I noticed this time around that Shauna's already got a knife in her hand. She's the one cutting the snack wells. She's butchering the snack wells.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
Ha. I love that.
So then we get the scene with Travis and Javi and the gum. As someone with misophonia, I really need them to stop doing this.
I just love that your biggest complaint about the show where they eat
mouth noises.
Human bodies and cut rabbits open and butcher and...
But the sound design really emphasizes Javi's chewing.
We see a bear with its inside spilled out all over the floor.
I know, but...
Ben's stump is being swarmed by flies.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I swear, I think maybe Travis just has misophonia and just can't stand to hear him chewing the gum. Because I would beat up Javi if he was chewing gum next to my head.
Just here at home with no dead dad. Just right now.
Yeah. If he was in my house right now chewing gum, I'd throw him out a window.
You might also throw it.
Yeah. Misty's feeding Coach like a baby.
Oh, God. The Misty Ben stuff.
It's so upsetting.
She's weird with him the whole time.
Yeah.
She just is. But it is worse here at the beginning. All of this.
Well, and it's going to get even worse in the next episode or two.
You're right. It is worse. And it continues to get worse.
Yeah. It starts with the like feeding and like feeding and watering. She literally waters him later.
It is. Yeah. Misty is really unsettling.
Yeah.
And still I love her. I have a question.
Yeah.
How does Thaisa know what 4 or 5 miles away is?
Got me. She's not a cartographer.
She's not a cartographer.
As reinforced later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you what 4 or 5 miles away is.
I would have been like,
she would have had to have a pretty good vantage point even to see something 4 or 5 miles away. Like how?
Yeah, none of it.
That's not how it works.
But
makes
fine.
No sense.
We'll allow it. This is our first real divide.
Yes.
Who wants to stay? Who wants to go?
Yeah. And we see Shauna kind of being pulled between her and Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
But refusing to take a side, just being like, this is what I thought was best. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. Like, I didn't choose your side or her side. Like, I just think that this is what we should do.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because she says, it's just what I thought. It's not like, she doesn't say it's just what I thought was the right choice. Right. It's just what I thought we should. She just says, it's just what I thought. It also
Ty even says it was the right choice. And Shauna's like, we don't know that.
Right. She's like, it was just a choice.
Yeah.
It made me think a little bit of that conversation you and I had of whether or not Shauna would have actually gone to Rutgers. And I had been holding out that probably she would have, and just blame Jackie forever. But
this is her going to Brown.
Exactly. Yep.
Are you saying I was right?
I'm just saying it put me in the mind of that conversation.
Yeah.
Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. I did write down, so the people that want to stay are Laura Lee, Mari, Lottie, and Jackie.
Right.
And the rest of them vote to go. Which
is an interesting grouping. We've got that Laura Lee connection.
Yeah.
And Mari I think is just doing what Mari wants. So she's not really worried about, what either side wants. Mari.
Although we see her shortly after this at the lake, like cozying up to Jackie and kind of trying to, like when they're sitting on the shore of the lake and everyone's swimming, being like, oh, like, well, we're here. And then like, she seems to be trying to like make Jackie her friend.
Which we will see Mari throughout kind of like cozy up to the person she thinks is most.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, has the most power.
Because
at this point, Jackie still had some power. Van grabs the compass from the plane.
Smart.
And they write that they've gone to the lake on the plane itself.
We get, while they're on their way there, that's where we see that awful bear. Ben says a wolves can kill anything if the pack's big enough.
Yep.
So that's, we have, number one, we've got that. We know what happens to Van further on. And at this point, it seems that they may have still been planning for Van to not make it to 2021. Right. So there's that. But then there's also, we see what the girls become as well. Yeah. So
they become the wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is when Ty says, I'm not a fucking cartographer. Because they're like, it's more than 4 or 5 miles, I think.
Yeah.
They're carrying Ben on a stretcher, which is like, I don't know. Weirdly, in the show about cannibalism, this is a thing that like stretched my credibility. I'm like, would they really have carried him on a stretcher for 4 or 5 miles, or would they have left him behind with someone?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because that's a lot. Like they built a stretcher and carried him 4 or 5 miles through the woods.
These girls
treated very casually,
who've been out here for 3 days are suddenly,
yeah, they know how to build a stretcher. Well, maybe Misty did.
Oh, that's that's a good point.
Yeah, that's true.
We get a perfect needle drop. We get
one of the best.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
This is also, we hear some creepy breathing, and it kind of, the point of view of the camera is a little bit like it's observing them, like there's something in the woods with them.
Yeah, it's something that they, especially in season 1, wanted us to feel like, I think, the girls were being watched.
Something else was out there.
That kind of eases up. But especially with like the bear, where Ben says it's a wolf and we find out that is what was being foreshadowed, whatever. But at this point, we don't know that. And at this point, this episode especially, we really start to get the possibility of there being something supernatural attached to these girls in some way. So
yeah, especially at the end.
Right. So having that kind of like surveillance makes sense. I want to talk about Dreams a little bit, the song. Oh, should we do it here? Or do we want to? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it here.
It's a perfect needle drop. The song is perfect for the moment, but it's also the Cranberries in general. I was looking. I know this song in particular being used specifically in The Next Karate Kid. That's the first time I remember hearing it as a young person. I don't know if you are familiar with the plot of The Next Karate Kid.
I am not. I am familiar with the song from the album that I bought while I was a freshman in college.
And it is, so in The Next Karate Kid, Hilary Swank is the next Karate Kid. Right. So now Mr. Miyagi has taken on a young woman, so it's very progressive.
Yes,
but they go and stay with some monks who she feels really like closed off and weird and not happy to be around. But she comes upon them dancing to this song, and it's what opens up, and then they build a friendship, and it's very sweet.
Oh my god, I did not know that.
Yeah, I loved that movie when I was a kid. But it's also the Cranberries are. This might be. I have no research to back this up, but they seem to be one of the most used artists in movies.
Yeah. Well, especially in really significant moments, like when Zombie plays when they're carrying Javi.
Exactly. And I looked at at a breakdown of like different movies and shows that their songs have been used in, and there are a billion. They're in Empire Records 2 or 3 different times.
Wow.
But Boys on the Side, this song is also used in, which is
I saw that, I think.
So perfectly relevant. It's like iconic queer female empowerment movie from the 90s.
Yeah.
It's Whoopi Goldberg, Drew Barrymore, and Mary Louise Parker. Like covering up a murder and traveling. It's accidental. It's not really a murder. Sorry. But it is a movie about like women and their secrets and female love and friendship and also romance and all of that.
Like a Thelma and Louise vibe with some queer overtones.
Yeah, you nailed it. And so it is.
Thank you so much.
I can't help but draw that connection to this show.
Yeah.
Through that song.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, no, it's such a perfect needle drop for so many reasons, but like the emotion in that song and their faces as they run towards the lake is so perfect. They all jump in. I also wrote, this is when the girls notice Travis is hot.
Yep.
Jackie's like, it's only been 3 days.
This
is my favorite trope. It's like you put a hot person in a show and then suddenly somebody discovers that they're hot. I'm like,
they've been going to school with this kid forever. And this is when they really start to lean in. They've been kind of showing us that Van and Ty have some sort of connection, right? Ty's immediately looking for Van when the plane crashes.
Right.
But this is when Akilah says, you've got the JV team fooled. And Ty's like, what? Because Ty has been watching Van in the water. And she says, you're not that much of a bitch.
Right.
But then right after that, we get Shauna looking at Jackie in the same way. And so,
Jackie's clearly like trying to make Shauna jealous by like gabbing with Mari and acting like they're getting to be such good friends.
Right. So
she's being very petty.
Yeah, she's not happy that because Shauna has never like really disagreed with Jackie. I mean, she will, but then she wears the boob dress anyway. So
exactly. Yeah. And then we see the reflection on the hill. And every time one of these things that I am stuck on, and right now I'm stuck on the like trigonometry, surveying, cartography, mapping situation, like my brain just hasn't let go of it. I'm like, what is it that's reflecting light? Is it a mirror? Is it like a telescope? What the fuck is it?
Yeah, because in my head I was like, it's a window, but that doesn't make sense. Windows don't. That's not how a window works.
No, something has to be moving for the light to flash, right? And the sun's not moving in the sky.
Yeah.
And the window's not moving. Like, what is moving to make that light flash? I just don't know, but it's driving me nuts.
In my head, but I know plenty about surveying and cartography, and I know we don't actually have confirmation that he's a surveyor, but in my head he is. There's some sort of like non-digital tool hanging, like some sort of like weighted something that is swinging, though we don't see that.
No, we don't
at any point. So
no, we don't. And I think at one point I went real deep on surveying and surveyors' tools, but there are tools that are mirrored tools that would have made that kind of reflection.
Right. We just don't see any specifically. Right. But who knows? But it is Lottie who sees it first, but everybody else sees it as well, so we know it's not a Lottie hallucination.
Right. So they find the cabin.
We
hear the weird breathing again.
The cabin has been, like, how long? Years? Like many years,
like easily
decades.
Many years, 10 years, something like that. Yeah, everything's covered in dust.
And even the canned food is fully rotten inside, which
that takes a while, I think.
Yeah. But there's plenty of porn.
This is
where we get another fantastic line from Travis.
Lines. Yeah. Someone asked Travis if guys really jerk off to that shit, and he says, "No, we hate that shit. You can't even tell what her favorite book is." And it said so perfect, like the tone is perfect. It's so casual, and he just like walks away with one of the magazines.
And it's the first time we see him have any sense of humor. He's been such a grump this whole time.
Yes.
So that's
and he's about to be again.
Yeah.
Because they have another chewing gum scene, which thank God that's over.
I'm so sorry for you, but I'm so glad that you're free of this now.
I'm so glad it's over. I also noted in my original notes that Travis is wearing a dark purple shirt.
Were you tracing the color?
I was tracing the colors for quite a while. Yeah, and then I just kind of gave up. But he was wearing purple in this scene.
We still don't know exactly what the issue is with Coach Martinez, but Travis does say Dad was I forget if he calls him a dick or a prick, but it's definitely one of those two words that rhymes. And he's like, he's the reason that we're here, and now he's dead, and really tries to kind of like that home with Javi.
Yeah. Yeah, we have our little makeup scene with Shauna and Jackie, where Jackie's like, the worst is behind us. And immediately in my brain, it flashed to season 2, episode 3. Yeah. I'm like, oh.
You think so?
Not yet.
Shauna has tried to bring her a blanket.
Yes.
Like outside in the cold.
Yeah. And then Ben getting attacked by flies and falling off the porch.
He freaks out so good here.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? I know they're in like extreme circumstances to begin with, but like seeing an authority figure like that lose it like that.
Misty gets off on it.
Of course she does.
She's like, ooh, I could manipulate this.
Yeah, the way the like calm that comes over her in that moment is so upsetting.
Yeah, she's shushing him like a child. While her like lip is bleeding from where he hit her. It's bad. It's very disturbing.
And he says, like, why couldn't I just have died? And she says, because we needed you. Which is a weird thing to say because he hasn't done anything, no offense to Ben, but he hasn't done anything useful. We kind of, like, I have a lot of love for Ben. We kind of don't need him.
No.
It's not even like his being there is the thing that keeps them civilized for a little longer. Like, that's not the case. He's just there to bear witness.
Yeah. It's sort of this last vestige of, like, civilization hierarchy, based on age and position.
Yeah.
We get a scene of Ty trying to get Lottie to come in, and we get Lottie's like real reticence now. Like she was hesitant to even leave the lake. I noticed watching back, but here she's like, I'm not going in there.
Yeah, and this is also where we get Ty firmly saying she doesn't believe in that shit. Actually, the scene not right before this one, but we get one of the flashback scenes to her childhood is before this.
Right.
And it's an important one, especially if we're building a case that there's something supernatural going on with this show.
Right.
This is when she's singing a Bill Withers song, Grandma's Hands, to Nana, which is very sweet. But then that's when Nana starts freaking out because she sees the man with no eyes.
Yeah. She says, don't let him take my eyes.
Don't let him take my eyes, which is so scary.
I know.
And especially, she says it. She's a woman who is ready for death. She says death is nothing to fear. And then this Slender Man shows up.
Yeah.
And it is...
It's horrifying.
It is so horrifying. And
especially because she was so calm about it, you know, beforehand. Yeah.
And we know that Ty sees him later, much later in the series, I think. I could be wrong. It could be the next episode. But in my head,
soon, I think she sees him in the woods. In the first, like, half, I think, of season 1.
It is season 1? Okay.
I think so, yeah. I could be wrong, but...
Well, because I think that really overt kind of... Well, no, that's not... I don't know. But this is the first instance of something really strange, I think.
Yeah.
In the series.
This is the most overt, for sure. I also think what struck me this time watching it was how obstinate Ty is and how used to getting what she wants she is. Like, even as a teenager, the fact that Lottie doesn't immediately follow her into the house, she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you were supposed to just listen to my commands. And Lottie's like, I'm not going in there. And Ty gets so immediately frustrated that she's not listening to her.
I know we said we were going to save 2021. This is the one instance I marked, except for later, where it's flashing back and forth so much.
Yeah.
The scene right after this flashback is Ty talking to Sammy about punishment. And when people do bad things, they should get punished, you think?
Right.
And there's just something about grown-up Ty being informed by... And it's... Sammy asks in this scene too why people don't like Ty, and she says, I'm different than they expect, and it scares them. And he says, you're not the bad one in the scene. And she asks Sammy, is someone else the bad one? And he says, no.
Yeah.
And that's where, at this point in the series, I'm like, oh, Sammy's saying he's the bad one because you're not the bad one and someone else isn't the bad one. So who's left? Me, Sammy. Well, but exactly.
Yeah, now we know.
Anyway,
I totally skipped over that on the first watch when we didn't know what Ty was going to turn into.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh, it's got to be him then.
Right. It's got to be this evil little child they make so evil.
I know.
But we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
All of that when we get to 2021. But I think that juxtaposition is an important one that they are kind of showing us Ty has this... I don't even know what the word is, but this like malevolent history, how involved she is with it, how real it is, whatever. But there's like darkness there for sure. And then it cuts right to the scene where we don't at this point know that there's anything going on really with adult Ty. So
she seems, but on rewatch, like, I think we talked about this last time. Like, I think I was reading into her relationship with Simone having a warmer side than it actually does now that I'm actually watching the scenes again, seeing what happens at the end, because she just wants what she wants to happen, and she will just make it happen regardless of who's involved.
Calculating. Yeah. Even when she says like, well, we'll get there. Yeah. But yeah, you're so right.
I think we're about to jump into 2021 anyway. So in 2021, we start with... Do we start with Ty in the kitchen?
The political ad, yep.
Yeah, with Phil Bradhurst. Yeah.
Oh, Phil.
Phil Bradhurst, probably one of those, like, waspy Jersey folk that, has, like, a family tie to political office, maybe. Little machine politics situation. We see the ad that he posts of her cannibalizing their tax dollars, which honestly is pretty clever.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. And it's very New Jersey. Everybody in New Jersey that owns property, all they fucking talk about is taxes.
Right.
It's property taxes.
So of course that's
they're very high.
He's focused on there. And she knows it's a tactic that will work. Also, just Biscuit Watch, still alive, still has his head on.
Has to go to the park.
He has to go to the park.
Yes. Again, Sammy with a very creepy line delivery on a non-creepy line.
Why? Why are they doing this to us?
They're just fucking with us. Yeah, so Ty, the next time we see her, she's at the park with Sammy and Biscuit.
This is where we find out that Jessica was hired by Ty. This is our confirmation.
This is the reveal, exactly. And she tells her to push them, to really test them. And Jess talks about the dirt on the guy's daughter who was expelled from Blair, which is, if it's not a real New Jersey private school, it certainly sounds like one.
Right, yeah. She's only 18, but she's an adult now, so she's fair game.
Exactly.
Which is dirty.
Yeah. I honestly think even if she wasn't 18, Ty would be like, whatever. She's
yeah,
you know, fair game anyway.
I don't think that's why Ty was asking. I think she was just curious to know how old this person was.
Yeah.
I don't think it was because she wouldn't.
She has some moral code.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And then we get more hints of Sammy being the bad one at this point because he hits the kid on the playground and knocks him off the jungle gym.
Mm-hmm. Though we find out it's because he called Ty a cannonball. Or at least that's how Sammy heard it.
Right, he heard it as cannonball. Yeah. I don't think he knows what a cannibal is yet. He will, though. Yeah, and Ty lies to the parent at the park very smoothly about it.
And immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, I go, every time we talk about Ty, now that we know about other Ty, I will often say, and then other Ty comes out when something needs, but regular Ty is not above.
No, regular Ty's pretty
to a degree. Like, this is not other Ty. This is just Ty.
Pretty decisive and sort of defensive of her position. Perfectly willing to lie immediately.
Exactly. Yeah, she did not have to call in her darker side to lie about this, at least.
I feel like her lighter side is not all that light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Ty and Simone are talking about the incident while Sammy's playing with the creepy doll. And we see, again, I think a conversation that I read one way the first time, which was like a couple discussing their kid and like kind of seeing it differently, to a couple where one person is like kind of manipulating the conversation once she realizes she needs to because it's not going the way she wants it to go.
Yep. Yeah, and then she goes over to play like concerned like enforcer parent where she goes to have this talk with Sammy. Sammy stands up to her when she tries to take the doll away.
When he says be quiet.
Yeah.
I was like, Jesus.
That's what
this kid's a psychopath.
Right? Like, yeah. And
Who says that to their parent?
That's the thing, especially if your parent is Ty and you think she's been watching you through your window. That's why some of this stuff I'm still like a little up in the air about, for sure.
Yeah.
But she puts, and they make it a point of showing us, she puts Manny up high. Before she sends Sammy up to her. Well, she sends Sammy up to his room and puts Manny up high, where it would be hard for him to get him, I think. Anyway.
Also next to a painting that has kind of haunted my brain every now and then. It looks like Lottie in the painting. It's this like painting of the face of a sort of ethereal looking woman with dark hair. It's kind of a sort of mystical looking image, and it looks like Lottie to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was when I first noticed that painting, when she put the doll next to it. Yeah, I said, in my notes it says, Ty takes his doll and puts it on a shelf near a weird painting of someone who looks like Lottie.
Could be. Maybe Adam Martin painted her because he's probably part of her cult. And
maybe that's an Adam Martin original.
That's right. You
never know. He had a whole career in New York before that bank safe incident.
That's right. I have a question about what we know. I have a hard time keeping things straight with Adam. Maybe I'll save that, though. But
we're going to get to Adam. I've got so many thoughts about what...
Yeah, this episode. Yeah. I agree.
We can finish up the Ty part and then kind of jump into the next bit. But, you know, this is when we get the scene of her in Sammy's room with all the bedding and all the blinds closed. And his bedding is woodland themed, which is... There's just so many of those little details.
Don't you think if you'd spent 19 months...
They all have
in the
pictures
Canadian
of mountains and woods in their homes.
You would never want to see a fucking tree again.
Shauna has like mountain-themed art all over her house.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. No, thank you. I would live in a shack on the beach. No, not the beach. Well, yeah, a warm beach somewhere. I would live in a shack on a warm beach.
I would live
not
in
near
the
a mountain ever.
Cityest of cities is where I would live.
Fair. That too. Yeah, maybe like Miami.
There you go.
Although Miami is going to be underwater soon. But this is when, like you said, he says, I know you're not the bad one.
Mm-hmm. Sammy, is someone else the bad one? No.
No.
And
then she immediately goes to her office and like turns into the bad one to threaten Phil about
she makes that call. It is hard to tell in this scene. When it is other Ty, for sure, you know. It is
there's
really, you can definitely tell. We saw her in episode 2. I think my feeling is this is probably other Ty. There's that it's a little harder to say for sure. I think the line between the two of them is blurrier, like I said, than I have often argued. But at the end of that call, they linger on her face for a second in a way where it's like you can kind of see that hardness in her eyes that Tawny is so good at turning on when she needs to.
She says, "Don't fuck with me, Phil." And then the last we have with Ty is that end scene. Should we talk about that now, or should we? Wait?
I think we can, because there's nothing else. We've covered all of yeah. Also, Ty wakes up on the sofa. She's not sleeping. In bed with Simone, which is interesting.
Right. Well, and we also find out in the next few episodes that she is the woman in the tree, and she comes in with like the dirt under her nails and stuff. So I think this is like setting up the fact that she is not sleeping well, and she's sleeping in other parts of the house, not with her wife, all of that stuff.
But she wakes up and they do that cool thing where they're bouncing back and forth between here it's 1996, 2021, and
whatever year when she
10 years before, probably, when her at her grandmother's funeral, and they're drawing really strong parallels. All three are her walking. She's walking up to the casket. She's making her way up to the attic because she's woken up and heard some creaking in 96, and she's walking down to the basement.
Which until I watched it this
different
time,
levels.
Yes,
it's cool.
I put the red string on the wall. I noticed it much more this time, the fact that it's actually different levels. She's going up to the attic, down to the basement, and then as a kid, she's like on in one level in the middle.
They're so smart, especially now that I know I'm the one last week who said people are making a big deal out of shadow work and repressed selves and all, and kind of rolling my eyes a little bit at that. But they literally have adult Ty going down into the basement while teenage Ty is this, like, it is all
it's all there.
It's all there for us.
Ty and teen Ty is going upstairs. I think we're supposed to, in that moment, think of it as like curiosity, but also like she's checking on things. She's being responsible. She feels responsible for the group because she led them to the lake, and so she's like, what was that? I'm going to go upstairs and look. And like she sees Lottie, and and it's kind of it's a sort of discovery. She says, I don't believe in that stuff, whatever, blah blah blah, just shortly before, and then here where it doesn't feel so much a part of her yet, she's like, it's a reaching outward and upward, and like you said, checking in, and I do it's
think
a little
of that,
bit her better self,
right?
Like
I
being
think
the responsible one in that moment.
I definitely
honestly
agree.
If it was me and I heard creaking upstairs, I put my head under the blanket and go back to bed.
Well, I'd wake everybody else up first.
No, I wouldn't. I would just pretend it wasn't happening and put my head under a pillow. And this is like, everything is about the eyes now. Like we see the skeleton of the cabin guy. We see her opening her grandma's eyes in the casket. We see the fact that she finds the eyeball of Sammy's doll.
Thing.
Yeah. So it's all about the different eyes.
Have you read any of, or have we talked about Freud and the Uncanny on this show?
I've read some, and I don't think we have talked about it.
It feels I kind of want to save it. We will eventually we'll have to, once we get a little more of other Ty, we will get into the Uncanny.
Okay.
But there is a lot of, and I want to be very clear. I do not think of Freud as a particularly good, like, mental health expert.
No, we all stand Freud on this podcast.
But I do think his writings are a really fun way to look at cultural artifacts.
Okay.
That it is really cool to think about the way Freud has written about and talked about the uncanny, and the way that shows up in the art that we make. I don't know that I want to take him any further than that. So just keep that in mind. But
we should put a pin in that.
He has a lot to say in the Uncanny, not just about doppelgangers, which is what it's often known as, like doppelgangers and doubling, and also things that are almost like Uncanny Valley. I said that crazy. Uncanny Valley. I swapped the two vowels in that. The Uncanny Valley that hear about a lot of, like, with like AI and robots, where it's like almost human but not quite, and you can feel that when it gets close but not. And that's what we like mostly people think of the Uncanny, but there's also a lot of stuff with eyes and dolls. And so once we get to Ty, we get a little more confirmation of that other self. I'll do a little
nice
Freud talk, because I think it's really interesting.
I haven't had to read Freud since grad school, and I think I blocked out most of grad school, but
I think he's really fun if you don't take it seriously. I think he's a really cool lens to apply to this kind of thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So we'll do that in a few weeks probably.
Yeah. So,
but we're to assume Sammy at this point?
I think so. Yeah. I think we're supposed to assume that Sammy is the problem.
Even though it probably would have been again difficult for him to get that doll down. Though I guess with like a chair or something. But Ty is sleeping right there.
Yeah.
So
it's true. It's true. I think, but one of the things the show does a lot is it plays with our expectations of this type of show or this type of movie where, like, the creepy kid is such a classic, like, we're just naturally inclined to believe if a kid shows any little bit of creepiness in this type of show that the kid is going to be psychotic.
Right. In the same way that we are at this point assuming that Jeff is cheating on Shauna.
Exactly. Yeah. There's all these expectations that we bring with us to this kind of show, and the show knows that and is like fucking with it. So yeah, back to Jeff and Shauna.
Jeff's making juice and flirting with his wife.
Yep.
Because he's not cheating on her, even though she is certain that he is.
Yeah.
And he's doing everything he can to convince her that he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's making a celery smoothie because it lowers your blood pressure.
She wants her to stay high. She's such an asshole.
I know, but she's got such great lines. She's basically trying to bait him.
Yeah.
You know, like asking him to pick her up at 4, which she knows is when he's supposed to meet whoever Bianca is. And he says he can't because he's got to lead from the front and be at work, which Jeff has never led from the front once in his life, but not one time.
But sure.
Yeah. No, Jeff is not a leader as much as I love him. He is 100% a follower.
Yeah. And I mean, when Shauna's your wife, like
you can't be a leader.
Yeah, no, you got to kind of just take a back seat and let her do her. So yeah, Shauna follows him to the hotel.
Yeah, I noticed and this is just the way these scenes are always filmed, but when she's driving and she almost gets T-boned, it reminded me of the Simone accident.
Yeah, totally.
Same like shot basically, but Shauna manages to avoid it. I also love that her instinct is to duck down when she's right behind Jeff. I'm like, so if he looks in the rearview mirror, he's going to see a van with the same license plate as his that looks exactly like his. Your car.
With no driver.
But nobody driving it. Sure. Okay, Shauna.
It is funny that she's, I know, which it feels like everything else we know about Shauna.
Yeah. Maybe very capable.
Yeah.
I know, but she's not good at this, like, spy stuff.
I do think it's probably because the last thing she expected from Jeff was that he would cheat on her.
Yeah. Although,
she's like a little out of her.
They got together. He cheated on Jackie.
Yeah, but
even though they were on a break. They weren't on a break when she got pregnant.
But I think she thinks of him as such a, like, milquetoast. The same way we kind of do. That, like, she was not ready for this.
Yeah, totally. She's trying to get into the hotel room with her Homeland Security bit.
It's so bad.
I'm sorry. People that work in, like, the Secret Service and Homeland Security and even just regular cops, like, you can pick one out from a mile away, and Shauna does not read as cop.
Are you sure maybe she's just so good at it? I mean, her badge is in her bag. She's got it
sure.
right there.
Yeah, but there's people that they have eyes everywhere.
So funny.
Adam shows up.
I just have to remind everybody, I don't think I've said this yet, this little arc of our show, Yellowjackets is a comedy.
Yes.
And here is such a good example of that.
Yeah, and the woman at the Molly Pitcher, which is where they are, is not buying it. No. Even when Adam tries to play along.
The way he comes out of nowhere, it's so funny because he comes out, DC's on the line briefing, and she says, "Oh, that's important." Yeah. She's like, "Briefing is so general."
I know. It's so dumb, and it's like they wonder why we were obsessed with Adam this whole time.
What is he doing there?
What is he doing there? He says they have a classic martini in his studio spaces down the street. Okay.
You're not to be whatever. This is classist of me, but I grew up poor, so it's fine. I can say it. You are a mechanic.
Right. And an artist.
Yeah. And the place you spend, although I'm guessing the Molly Pitcher isn't like it's a place where a man like Jeff might go to cheat on his wife or meet with somebody he owes money to.
They have a valet.
Yeah, it seems nice.
They have valet.
It seems nice enough.
It's relatively nice, yeah. They have a nice restaurant bar in the lobby.
This is where he's going on his lunch break?
Yeah, absolutely not.
What is he doing there, Jodie? He saw her. The most generous read of this is he was driving on the way to his studio, and saw her car.
Right.
And then needed an excuse, which is bad. It's bad enough. Like, just say, "I saw your car."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't help it. I don't buy. I wrote in my notes this time, I'm so suspicious of Adam, even though I know he ends up dead. Like, I don't fucking trust any of this.
Do we think that Bart and Ashley wanted us to be suspicious, or do we think they... Like, well, I still don't know what
I know
they were doing with this scene especially.
Nobody does. I don't know if Ashley and Bart had a plan that they didn't follow through on. They have not said so, but they have said that they had considered other things for Adam, but that doesn't mean that they considered it before they filmed. Like, it might have been in the writing process. They considered Adam being like a grown-up Javi or whatever.
And so did they maybe leave some lines in that could be taken either way?
Yeah, exactly. Because in the scene where they're talking in the bar, like, he is so... He's playing with her, it feels like.
For that story, the show does that thing where, like, they cut us in the middle of a story that makes no sense out of context for us. But I also feel like he's lying. Like, is it about a bank heist? He's stealing a safe?
No. So this is where the contemporary art nonsense comes in. It was, I think what they're saying, it was a contemporary art piece where he dangled a safe over a street in New York. And it caused all sorts of, I don't know if it fell, but it was like, his story is talking about a piece where he dangled a safe over the street in Chelsea. And something went wrong. And he got driven back to New Jersey, where he now does figuration and has gone back to his roots. So, like, the impression I got from that, knowing a little bit about the New York art world, is that he was some sort of, like, young hotshot artist that had some big mishap with a piece. And he ended up, like, losing his gallery or whatever and having to go back to Jersey.
And back to Jersey. That part is...
And he's not from Jersey.
Okay. Right? When he says back to his roots, the argument could be made he means his roots as an artist and a mechanic and whatever. But back over the river or whatever, he presents all of that. We're supposed to take that as he's from Jersey, right?
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah.
But we find out when they find his body, or when he goes missing, right? The news report says he's from somewhere in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heck. I know. Yeah. He also, like, happens to quote Kurt Vonnegut at her. Like, come on.
Yeah.
He's also playing with her.
The references, the Vonnegut stuff, and I have something about, I want to talk about Vonnegut and I want to talk about Vienna, the song, but I want to talk about those together when we get to the end. So I'm just going to put a pin in the Vonnegut thing, but we should talk about Vonnegut.
Okay, we're basically almost done with Shauna and Adam because she then sees Jeff and Bianca, confirms her suspicions, supposedly, not really. But yeah, he asks her what she's doing there. And she says she's confirming a suspicion. And he says, will it make you happy if it's confirmed or something like that? I can't remember the exact language. And she says no. And it's pretty clear that, like, there's a subtext of the conversation. He knows that she's talking about her husband. He knows a lot about her in this conversation. The fact that he knows to quote Vonnegut, all that stuff.
Shauna does say, like, what are you doing here, Adam? Mm-hmm. And Adam says, I was just getting a drink, but I don't know now. I'm starting to think maybe something out there has other ideas.
Right.
Adam, why would you say this? Something out there?
Right.
Jodie.
I'm so suspicious of him. And I will never not be. I don't care what the end result is.
You and I, by the end of season 2, we're really giving people a hard time about the Adam stuff. But, like,
there's a reason.
How could we not?
Yeah, exactly. And so then after she sees Jeff go by, the next time we see them, they are in the hallway of the hotel going into a room together. So Shauna goes in, Adam pauses. The door's almost closed, and then he pushes through.
Right. But she is the one kind of leading that.
Yeah, she's basically inviting him in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. It's room 2106. I don't know if it means anything, but I can't help myself.
They did this to us.
Get a numerologist in here.
Uh-huh. Well, it's 9. It would be the number. 2 plus 1 is 3 plus 6 is 9. I don't know beyond that what that means. But,
me neither. But her safe code is 2525, and it's 25 years.
Ooh.
Yeah. They did this to us.
We get... the Misty and Nat road trip makes me so happy.
It's really funny.
It's
really funny.
We need... Like, young Misty is such a fucking creep. And so is adult Misty, but Christina Ricci makes her so... lovable.
Yeah.
And we need that to have, I think, to have any, like, you know,
Absolutely.
If we're rooting for Misty at all in the early years. So
yeah, I think honestly, like, especially in the beginning when teen Misty is just like hasn't shown any softer side yet or any like human side. Christina Ricci's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here to like make us still care about her. She's talking about guys she's dated.
He seemed pretty normal, but then afterwards he asked for my socks. And then he still never called.
She's also clearly texting Kevin Tan while they're in the car.
Yeah, and when Nat asks, she says it's just a friend for now. Mm-hmm. She's such a creep.
She's so manipulative. They're listening to the soundtrack to Cats in the car when they pull up at the gas station.
Yeah. I think I read her as, maybe not, but in my memory of watching this in my COVID-fueled haze the first time, is that I read her as being a little more clueless, as a little more just like not realizing that people didn't like her at first or trust her. But it's so not the case. Like when they stop to gas up and Nat sends her into the convenience store and Misty doesn't want to go without Nat. She wants Nat to come in with her. Yeah. And then Nat says, like, chocolate's good when Misty's like, I don't know what snacks you want. And then Misty does the thing. It's short, but it's another little list. Like, she does this thing where it's like her trying to, it's like a hypnosis thing almost. She's like, if I just keep talking. Right. But it doesn't work with Nat because Nat, it probably works for her a lot, you know? Yeah.
But Nat knows her. Mm-hmm. Nat is not being distracted by Misty's like little tricks.
Exactly.
Yeah. She comes back. So Nat sees the wires, which we spoke about last week, I think.
And she's not surprised. That's what she was looking for.
Exactly. Misty comes back eating beef jerky.
Jerky?
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a fun part, like buddy partnership road trip.
But yet
Kermit
again,
and Fozzie Bear.
Totally. Misty, the least affected by what happened out there because she went in ready and she left like just the least changed, I think, of all of them. I think
so too. Yeah, she's not affected really. They're up in New Hampshire.
They get to Travis's house.
Yep. Looks like the Unabomber.
He really, like, I also wonder, do we know how long he's been up there?
We don't. It does seem like he and Nat had been in touch semi-recently before she went to rehab. Because the timeline is fuzzy.
Because we find out way, way, way at the end of season 2, we get their last scene together where she overdoses and the EMTs and all of that. And it seems like
do we know that that's the last time they see each other?
I guess we don't. I've just assumed as much.
Yeah, it could be. Sure.
That's kind of how I've set the timeline up, that like maybe that's the thing that has Ty send her to rehab.
Exactly. That would make the most sense.
That house does seem very not lived in a good way, but it's also like if he's renting that house that maybe other people have passed through. So who knows? It's not appointed or decorated at all. Right.
There's not a ton of personal stuff in it. There's like stuff on his dresser. There's, some mail, but it's not like he's comfortably settled into this house, like, and made it his own at all. Right.
But it is possible he just hasn't been there that long. Though I don't get the impression that he would have been.
On the windows. Who's he hiding from?
Yeah. Or is it just that he just rented the whole thing is the stuff. Adam and Travis, man, the way they have handled them in the present is so, I'm just confused by all of it.
I mean, the fact that Travis dies in a way that I still am not sure I believe, but the fact that Travis dies, if you look at that in context of him living in a house in the middle of nowhere with paper on the windows, it really feels like he thinks somebody's coming after him.
Right. But it's also interesting, Misty finds the pay stub and says, and Nat sees the bottle of whatever it is on the table.
Alcohol.
Fancy alcohol. She says it's a $200 bottle. And Missy's like, it's expensive for somebody who's barely making minimum wage.
Right.
And so there are two ways. I think the first time through, I was like, oh, I wonder if, but I guess Jessica would have told us. So who knows? I think is he the one who is orchestrating this stuff and he's got money we don't know about, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Is there something more going on there? Right. Or is he spending his money only on alcohol because he knows he's not going to be around for long, right? Like he spent the last of his money on this expensive alcohol because he's going to die.
Right. I think looking back now, my assumption is because when we saw Jess before this in this episode, it looked like she was in... We don't really see her location, but it's implied to me that she's in New Hampshire because she says a lot of sleep you really don't want to be found. And so, or some of you really didn't want to be found. And so to me, it's implied that she brought that bottle to him to try to get and see if he would talk. Mm-hmm. And that may have drove him to leave the apartment and go wherever, go to work, go kill himself, go get killed, whatever the fuck.
Because the timeline is Jessica, we can assume, it seems to be, with season 1 and season 2 in mind. The timeline of this little bit here, right, is, and you please correct me if I'm wrong because you know how bad I am with this stuff.
It's confusing.
But it seems that Jessica goes to Travis, it spooks him, he runs off, they show up, Nat and Misty show up. But where does Lottie... No, because Lottie, he's already
Lottie's
died.
Before.
Yeah. So where do Jessica and Lottie... Lottie is after Jessica for sure. Because she follows him to the ranch and is just behind him. So Jessica shows up. Maybe that's what it is. Jessica shows up. Lottie shows up. He's like, this is too much from my past. Right. And Nat has just called him. Right. He has thought all this time, for as long as he's been up there, he's like, I'm hiding, whatever. Then Jessica shows up, Nat calls him, and Lottie.
Right.
All within 24 hours, right?
Yes.
Then Nat and Misty show up at the house. He's already dead at this point.
Right.
They find him.
And we don't know how long they were in jail for, but it doesn't seem like very long.
No, I don't think so.
Maybe the rest of that day and they get out in the evening and then that's when they go to the ranch.
Yeah.
And find him.
Yeah, because they do get arrested for breaking into the house. Oh, this is where we get my favorite line. This is where we learn about the Mike McGreevy, the Gibbsboro Ghoul.
Oh, the Gibbsboro
a place you didn't know
Ghoul.
was real.
No, I'm not sure I believe it is.
It's 100% real.
Okay. I trust you.
But they get arrested. Nat calls Ty. We find out that Ty, well, we already knew this, I think, but they talk about the fact that Ty, sent her to rehab. She's expecting Ty to bail her out.
We also find out from Ty, I think, that Natalie and Travis have had an on and off thing and that they're terrible for each other.
Yes, correct.
I also just wanted to put a pin in the fact that we do see Travis in the mirror, or Nat sees Travis in the mirror and then he's gone. It's sort of like a, almost like a man with no eyes kind of moment.
Right. Or a Misty at the party kind of moment.
Right.
And then Ty is, here's a question I have that you and I have talked about a lot. Ty's not a state senator yet.
No.
What political power does Taissa have from New Jersey in New Hampshire that Nat thinks, and Ty seems to think she could bail her. She could pull some strings in New Hampshire.
She's a lawyer, but I think famously she's a land use lawyer.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah.
Is any of this?
I wonder if
is this just Bart and Ashley not knowing like
what a state senator is?
Yeah. Or a potential state senator?
So, okay, here's my generous read. Maybe, because they both grew up in New Jersey, Bart and Ashley are familiar with New Jersey's machine politics and,
right.
and behind like closed doors and under the table dealing.
They just assume anything can happen.
They know that if you know the right guy,
right,
and you slip him some, a contract or some money, you get shit done.
Right. You call Jodie and it'll happen.
Right. But not in New Hampshire, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my generous read.
Maybe Rhode Island.
Maybe Rhode Island, exactly. But then I like here that there's this honesty between Nat and Misty. She like confronts her about the battery cable, and Misty's like, "You wouldn't have taken me otherwise."
Mm-hmm. She's like, "I wanted to go, and I knew you wouldn't have let me." Yeah. And that's so Misty of being like, "Hey, Misty, take the hint then." That she's just like, and so I had to.
I had to.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, she's like, don't be bad. Uncomfortable silences make me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Misty has no problem being honest about her dishonesty when she's called on it with Nat. It is so funny.
Yeah. She calls Kevin Tan. Mm-hmm. He's her phone call because she's been texting with him pretending to be Nat. Which she also tells Nat is like, I just kind of, don't be bad.
Catfishing Kevin Tan.
Yeah. This is another good one. Nat asks what she's been saying to him, and Misty says, "I've been trying to channel you, so mostly being dark and deadpan."
So good.
It's great.
I just love them together.
Yeah. So then they get in the car, and I think Misty thinks they're leaving, and Nat's like, "No, we're going to Willowbrook Ranch to find him." Mm-hmm. And we see a giant hay barn. We see his pickup truck, or what we assume is his pickup truck. It's raining, but there's like weird not stage lights, like job site
like
lights.
Floodlights.
Floodlights. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. That are lit up, which is weird.
They're lit up as if like, whoever did this, whether Travis or not, wanted to be seen.
Yeah, I think that's why I accidentally said stage lights, because it feels like a stage. Yeah. It feels like a set, especially later on when we find out about the candles and stuff. But it feels like it's been set up that way for like the drama of it.
And Nat definitely thinks something's going on. She's convinced that he wouldn't, though, I mean.
Yeah. We get this weird moment where like Nat sees it first and pauses, and then Misty sees it and runs back to Nat and is theoretically trying to stop Nat from looking, but also leading her forward. It's like this weird back and forth. She's like, oh God, don't look at that, or whatever she says, but she's walking her forward towards it. It's really an odd.
It is interesting.
Juxtaposition. They hear the sirens coming. Who called the cops?
I think Lottie.
I guess. Why would you call the cops? How did the police know to come?
It is, the whole thing is confusing, and we have more story about it now that we've seen season 2, and it is no less confusing.
Still doesn't make sense, yeah.
Other question, this is me being nitpicky about the show, is why didn't they immediately arrest Nat and Misty when they got back to Jersey, because they have been arrested for breaking into this man's house and now he's dead.
Interesting.
And Nat is at the hotel for, I mean, at least, I don't remember how long, it could be weeks, but long enough for it to get back to Jersey.
Right.
That there was a murder of a man whose house she had just broken into and been arrested for.
Maybe they assumed it was a suicide. Like, maybe there were reasons that the cops just went straight to suicide, whether it was like the way he was up there or, you know, I don't know.
But the thing that's interesting that we didn't have our first time through, that should lend some clarity, but really just confuses things more, is we know now that Lottie was at the house before, right before.
Yeah.
And that
she was there. Yeah. Like she says, I wish I hadn't fallen asleep. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, so thinking about that scene in season 2, episode 2, it's like, how much of it is Lottie's perspective on what happened? Like, because we're seeing it from her perspective when she sees Laura Lee.
And they make it really clear that that's what's happening because it's told in a sort of voiceover. It's not just us in a flashback scene. It's us in Lottie's memory of it as she's choosing to tell it to Nat. So there are a couple of layers there.
Yeah. And it's interesting when we see the button gets stuck and then she gets distracted by ghost Laura Lee.
Right. And she doesn't say any of that. It doesn't seem like she's recounting any of that to Nat.
And then as she's looking at Laura Lee, Travis rises up behind her. So either she accidentally hits the button to raise him, something else raises him up. Like, I could believe all, some, or none of Lottie's story at this point. Like,
well, we don't have any reason hold on. Because the most like nefarious Lottie way to read it is she killed him and wanted him to die as a sort of sacrifice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much of that I believe. I think at this point when we were watching the first season, I think we were supposed to believe that he killed himself and Nat's in denial. But yeah, now that we've seen through season 2, it's like it is actually more confusing what happened.
Right.
I think I said to you earlier, like this episode, season 2, episode 2, with the Nat and Travis stuff is when I started to get mad at this show for a bit. I was like annoyed with the sort of another perspective on what happened to Travis that also made no sense, that had like creepy Laura Lee. Like I was a little bit like, guys, like this is getting a little out of hand. But we really still just don't know.
No. And I also don't know what I want it to be.
Yeah.
It depends on how I'm feeling on the day. If I still want this to be a show that is just about women dealing with trauma and what happens when they don't.
Right.
Or if I want there to be something more. I just don't know.
And we've talked about the fact I'm not super into supernatural stuff. I would prefer it to be about like the evil of man and how we delude ourselves into believing in supernatural stuff because it suits our narrative and blah, blah, blah. But like, I'm not going to be like miserable about it if that's not the case. But to me, I feel like I would be most satisfied if certain things were explained in a way that makes sense, and that included Adam and Travis. I just feel like we talked about this whole time, those are two sort of like little bits of unresolved stuff that I really want there to be a satisfying, clear explanation for at some point. And I don't know that we're going to get that, but
yeah, because it does kind of feel like those two have become so mucked up that they're not. And maybe not. I could be wrong, but it does sort of feel like they're like, we got a little too in the weeds with those two, and we might just let them fall by the wayside. And they could even argue that part of it is that this is a show that's about, which you alluded to a little earlier, memory and how we remember our past and how we share that with others, right?
Yeah.
So,
do we want to use this as a jumping off point for the Vonnegut piece?
I think so.
Let's do it.
So
take it away, Andrea.
So they're having this, little whatever at the hotel, and he says, "We are what we pretend to be, so we must be careful about what we pretend to be." Mm-hmm. And he's quoting Mother Night, which is a Kurt Vonnegut book. Mm-hmm. Mother Night is one I've never read. Have you read it?
No.
Interestingly, straight from Wikipedia for this one, the novel takes the form of fictional memoirs of Howard W. Campbell Jr., an American who moved to Germany and later became a well-known playwright and Nazi propagandist. The story of the novel is narrated by Campbell himself, writing his memoirs while awaiting trial for war crimes in an Israeli prison.
Ooh.
So it's somebody, which is a very Vonnegut. We'll talk about Slaughterhouse-Five in about 2 seconds, but it's just like interesting that what is being recounted here are the fictional memoirs.
Especially what you said at the end there, while on trial for war crimes. Mm-hmm. Like, I would not be satisfied with this, and I don't think many people would be, but I have seen plenty of arguments that they're all dead, or this is somebody recounting the story, from their perspective at the end of something, like, where it's looking back at it on trial for something.
No, I mean, who knows, right?
Who knows? They've certainly committed enough crimes.
Right. And then he just so happens to have quoted somebody who our English major, right? Isn't that what she wanted to was going to Brown for?
Yeah.
Clear Vonnegut fan Shauna is, because she quotes back, "And I asked myself about the present, how wide it was, how deep it was, how much was mine to keep." Which, just out of context alone, is here's a woman interrogating her current existence and her agency in it, and sleeping with Adam. She even says later in season 2, it's like it's something she did. Like, she was very intentional about it, and it's because she was feeling so kind of boxed in. But it's also a quote from Slaughterhouse-Five, which is semi-autobiographical, science fiction. It's about time traveling. It is a man recounting his memoirs. It's the character is Billy Pilgrim, but Vonnegut has said it is based on, again, it's science fiction, and it is highly it's a highly fictionalized account, but it is inspired by his actual time.
I'm going to confess, I read it in high school, and I have absolutely no memory of it.
I'll give you, and for our readers who, or our readers, our listeners who haven't read it, I'm just going to give you the Wikipedia blurb. It's a complicated book, but it is called Slaughterhouse-Five, or The Children's Crusade, A Duty Dance with Death. So that's also important. We call it Slaughterhouse-Five, but it's got the longest convoluted title. 1969 semi-autobiographic science fiction infused anti-war novel by Kurt Vonnegut, and it follows the life and experience of Billy Pilgrim from his early years to his time as an American soldier and chaplain's assistant during World War II to the post-war years, with Billy occasionally traveling through time. Not saying there's time travel in Yellowjackets. I just think the flashing around is important, and also that they are sort of unmoored in their own way, even if not literally traveling through time.
They're basically living in the past.
Yeah, and we see it over and over again with the way the show is made when we have these moments where it flashes, like with Ty, those 3 parallels happening they're happening as simultaneously as possible, and for Ty especially.
Many of them are living in multiple timelines, it feels like.
Totally. The text centers on Billy's capture by the German army and his survival of the Allied firebombing of Dresden as a prisoner of war, an experience Vonnegut himself lived through. And the opening line to Slaughterhouse-Five is, "All of this happened more or less." Which is like, all of this happened, but kind of, but no, it didn't. But I'm sort of telling the truth, but no, I'm not. Like,
which is the thesis of this show.
That's what this show is. And that's why it's so hard to be like,
it's the unreliable narrator.
And it's like, we know Lottie is an unreliable narrator, but so is everybody else.
They all are.
And
absolutely.
So if the whole show is that, then like, we can't trust any of what we've seen. So like,
my hope for it, honestly, is that at some point, and this is kind of what I meant when I was talking about Adam and Travis, is that they have said they don't want this to be a show where people leave still wanting lots more answers. They don't want to pin everything down. They don't want to pin down the supernatural. I did not bring up Lost. Don't look at me like that. I did not say it.
It was implied.
They did say they wanted to have
the basement level of our podcast.
I know. They did say they wanted to have the big questions answered. The ones that had a factual answer they wanted to answer. And the ones that are, questions about.
But we have no way of knowing at this point what those are. There are some that are obvious.
What I was going to say was just that my hope for the show is that they have enough of a plan that whenever this ends, whether it happens to be after next season because of the strikes and all that, or if it is going to go 4 or 5 seasons, that they have a plan to tie this shit together in a way that makes sense and is satisfying and isn't just everybody remembers things differently.
Right.
Who knows what actually happened? Like, I want to know what actually happened. Like, I want to know what actually happened. I'm perfectly fine with everyone having their own versions of events. But I feel like I personally, maybe it's just my problem, but I feel like I need, like, this is how they saw it, but we need to pull back at some point and be like, this is, even if it doesn't answer all of the, like, metaphysical questions.
Right.
Like, I would like to know who killed Travis. And I don't think, even though we theoretically know, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
And I want to be convinced.
Right. Because right now, all we can say for sure is that, I think all we can say for sure is that Travis died and Lottie was there.
Yeah. Most likely.
Right.
More or less.
Because if what we're supposed, all of this happened more or less, if what we're supposed to think at this point, or at season 2, episode 2, is Lottie tells Nat the button stuck, wasn't really her fault. She doesn't mention the fact that Laura Lee was there and distracted her.
Yeah.
But then if we're supposed to believe what we've seen on the screen versus what she actually tells Nat, we're supposed to believe that Lottie saw Laura Lee there. Hallucination is the less interesting, whatever, and maybe more likely, especially because we know Lottie was well, and that Lottie was hallucinating a full-on therapist. And
that other people in this show have hallucinated people plenty of times. Shauna talks to Jackie.
Right.
And sees her in the show. And
just in this episode that we covered this week, Ty and her grandma see the man with no eyes?
We don't know if Ty sees him or not, because she does say, what are you looking at, or what is it, or whatever. Right. But we see Nat see Travis in the episode where they're looking through their house. And again, through his house.
Right. And again, even before they crashed on, I almost said the island, even before the plane crash, Nat, she's on drugs, but she hallucinates Misty, which they have said is important. So, there's so much of this going on over and over and over again that, even the things, annoyingly, it's hard not to question even the things they're not asking us to question.
Yeah. It makes you want to not believe anything anyone says. And I think that's what I mean when I say I do want some sort of actual truth of some kind by the end. I don't need it right now. But it doesn't have to answer everything. But some things that are facts. I would like some facts.
Also, just a fun little, this is me very overreaching. This is just me drawing an connection and illusion that I don't know that Bart and Ashley would have been drawing on purpose, but that I think is really fun. The song that closes this episode out is Vienna, which is an Ultravox song. It's a great song. And I just was looking at what that song is actually supposed to be about. The lyrics, it's an affair in Vienna, right? But there's, again, another Wikipedia dive. I just thought this was so interesting in the context of what we have just talked about. In interviews at the time, it was said that the song took its inspiration from the 1949 film The Third Man, which is based around the Austrian capital. But Midge Uri later admitted he made that up when asked what the song was about. Uri is said to have been influenced by the Walker Brothers' 1978 single The Electrician, which, who knows, right? But according to Uri's autobiography, and according to Uri's autobiography, the title came about by a mishearing of the Fleetwood Mac song Rhiannon. So he thought it was Vienna. So it is a song where the meaning he lied about and the title is a mishearing.
Oh, that's funny.
Which isn't a lie, but it is a misunderstanding of the truth.
The concept of telephone, right?
Yeah.
The story told through multiple people and how it twists and changes as it's told. Mm-hmm. Which is also what's happening right now.
Right. Both of those things wrapped up in this song in this episode. I also don't know what the third man is about. Oh, it's another World War II thing. God.
That's so weird. Isn't Vienna... When does Vienna play in this episode? It's when they're...
The end.
The end? Mm-hmm. So that is when Misty is asking Nat, I think. Isn't it? Do you know what the note was about? Did we...
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she says, I don't, but I know I'm right about this. Mm-hmm. And so it's also in that moment where it's like about what is the true story, you know? It's so weird.
That's what I mean. And I don't know that like they necessarily were diving deep into but it is just everything about this show is calling us to question everything about this show. I know that can be frustrating. And I know that I'm kind of giving it that there's a possibility that we are giving it a little more credit than it deserves there, that like maybe some of this is just a little messy.
Especially in the first season. Because like you said last time, I think we know they didn't expect people to go this deep.
Right
away. But
I also don't know that when this exercise that we're doing right now it kind of doesn't matter what they intended.
Yeah. Well, and you know, in like if they're going to reference Twin Peaks as one of their influences, which is notoriously a show that people picked apart, like and mentioned Lost, like I don't think you make a show like this without thinking about those details. I just don't, you know. And it may not be down to like what a certain song was originally about, but maybe it is.
Right, except when it's a line like "This is getting gross," and then Shauna eats an ear.
Then it's pretty clear. Yeah.
Remember when I said "Friends, Romans, Countrymen, Lend Me Your Ears" was about eating ears?
I do remember. And
it was
your prescient statement.
Yellowjackets is a comedy.
Yes, it is. It is. So next week, we will be talking about episode 4 of season 1, titled Bear Down. This is the one that I keep thinking was episode 2 that starts with the Jane's Addiction song. We're doing another flashback to the crash.
The girls play with guns to determine who is the most responsible. Natalie untangles a lifetime of piecing together broken men. Thaisa greets the rich, which is a fun play on Eats the Rich.
It is a fun play on Eats the Rich. I never noticed that.
And so that's what's coming up. We got a lovely new review on Apple Music.
Oh, we did?
Uh-huh. I'll read it to you. Hold on.
I would like that very much.
I closed it out. Yeah, from AJP618. So excited to have new Yellowjackets content. This is a great idea rewatching season 1 and having watched all of season 2.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much. I was a suburban teen in the 90s. And the nostalgia of it all, the hosts capture that so well. And then the music with 5 exclamation points, we agree.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
We love our 90s suburban teens. It's nice to hear from people who are listening and like, especially those who relate to certain aspects of either Yellowjackets or us, our point of view. Like, it's nice to hear from people out there.
Totally.
Yeah. Where can they find us, Andrea?
They can find us at WatchersPodNJ on Instagram. They can email us. We love an email.
We do.
WatchersPodNJ@gmail.com.
They can find me on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, JODIE_MIM. It is my art account. It has nothing to do with Yellowjackets.
And you can find me at AQ Andrea Q. It's not my art account. It doesn't have much to do with Yellowjackets. You can also find me if you're looking for something to do February 3rd. We talked last week about Gary Goldman's Born on Third Base. He's one of the comedians performing at Chris Gethard's Wellness Together benefit. It's an organization that Geth works with supporting mental health in schools. And the lineup is, it's Geth. It is Gary Goldman, who is fantastic. It's Christy Summers. She's so funny. I love her so much. And then a sketch comedy group, Business Casual, who kind of stole the show at the Beautiful Anonymous convention last year. They're so funny. I mean, really, like if you're in the New York area, it is so worth
And anyone that grew up in the 90s
out.
knows the importance of mental health care in schools.
Yeah, because we know
we didn't have any.
Wellness Together. I'll link to the organization. They're really incredible. If we have any teachers listening, absolutely check out the link I'm going to drop in the notes, because they just launched. Wellness Together has been doing their thing for years. Wellness Together is incredible. Laughing Together is Geth's arm of it that he's been helped build, that is about getting it's like comedy and improv workshops into schools for providers and teachers and also students. And it's really I'm really obsessed with the work they're doing. I think it's so important, and it's something that we don't have enough of. And I'm on a tiny little soapbox all of a sudden, and I didn't mean to be. I just wanted to plug that comedy show because I think it's going to be very good. And if you're in the area, you should check it out. I'll put links to all that in the show notes. Anything else?
I think that's it. I'm looking forward to being in a plane crash again next week. If you're watching any of the other things I mentioned last week when Andrea wasn't here, you can also reach out and talk to us about that. We are sort of entertaining options for the extremely long break we still have before 2025 and the new season. So if you watched Fargo, if you're watching True Detective, if there's something else you're watching that you're really into, send us an email, tell us what you think, or give us suggestions for other things.
Totally open.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
We'll see you in the woods.
See you in the woods.